So as I was finishing the last video, it hit me that I was going to have to figure out the next topic worth covering. That feeling was very short-lived, however, as during the rendering process, my feed was flooded with videos of the brutality that took place at Kellie-Jay Keen-Minshull's hate rally in Canberra, Australia. So I guess I'm back to discuss more about this awful woman and why she and her fascist buddies are everything they claim trans women to be when it comes to the safety of women. Though before we delve into that, I just need to give a content warning for the following: scenes of police violence against women, intimate partner violence, sexual violence, fascism, and white supremacy. If you like our work, please consider supporting the channel via Patreon. You can also support us by liking, commenting, and sharing this video on social media. Hey there, my name is Ethel Thurston, she, her, they, them, and it's time to discuss how Kellie-Jay Keen-Minshull and her fellow Let Women Speak organisers celebrated the brutal assault of Victoria's first Aboriginal woman senator, Lydia Thorpe. In our previous video, we discussed Ms. Keen-Minshull's history of promoting violence against women, her calls on men to enter women's bathrooms with guns to threaten any woman who didn't adhere to archaic gender norms, her demands to strip girls of reproductive rights, and the way she had her own security team choke a woman for daring to try and speak at her Melbourne rally. We also talked about her links to various Nazis and white supremacists, including convicted wife-beater Avi Yemeni of Rebel Media, who Ms. Keen-Minshull was all too happy to give an interview to in the days following her Melbourne rally, blasting mainstream media for daring to point out said connections after open Nazis turned up to reinforce her. Just so we're clear on this, Avi Yemeni pleaded guilty to both malicious communications and physical battery against his now ex-wife, including throwing a chopping board at her head hard enough that it left a contusion on her forehead. He then left her to finish making his dinner, because that is, in his mind, what a woman is: a food/sex dispenser turned occasional punching bag. That is who Ms. Keen-Minshull turned to as an alternative to mainstream media. That is who she turned to as a champion of women's rights, a man who physically assaulted his wife as she made dinner and then expected her to finish it. I think it's safe to say that Ms. Keen-Minshull is very much okay with violence against women, so long as it's women she deems lesser, which is pretty much every woman that isn't her. Which brings us to the events surrounding Ms. Keen-Minshull's Canberra rally, in which Lydia Thorpe, Victoria's first Aboriginal woman senator, was violently assaulted by police and Ms. Keen-Minshull's security team. Quick note, the video I'm about to play you was posted to the Twitter account standing for XX, which is Ms. Keen-Minshull's political account/storefront, created sometime after she was originally banned from Twitter. Said post captioned the video, quote, "Further footage showing Senator Thorpe rushing towards Posey Parker. Thankfully her security guards stopped a possible physical attack from happening. The police had no option but to pull her down. Hashtag TRA violence, hashtag Let Women Speak Canberra." End quote. So I just want you to keep that post in mind as I play this video. That is the angle Ms. Keen-Minshull and her team have chosen to best show what happened. So let's watch.
The kingdom is the polar opposite. They know what biological sex is, and they celebrate women like myself.
Everybody just stand up. Let's
So, Senator Lydia Thorpe very calmly walked up behind the stage, holding the Aboriginal flag with both hands, to tell Ms. Keen-Minshull that she wasn't welcome on Aboriginal land. Because yes, that's where this rally was taking place. This is what Ms. Keen-Minshull and her team are referring to as Lydia Thorpe rushing towards Ms. Keen-Minshull, meaning police had no choice but to stop her from potentially physically attacking Ms. Keen-Minshull. This is what Ms. Keen-Minshull tags as TRA, that's trans rights activist, violence. Tell me, how was she supposed to assault Ms. Keen-Minshull with both of her hands held behind her back like that? Senator Lydia Thorpe didn't run, she didn't lunge at Ms. Keen-Minshull, she merely spoke truth to Ms. Keen-Minshull's hate, and for that was assaulted first by Ms. Keen-Minshull's security team and then by police. All whilst Ms. Keen-Minshull's gender-critical fascist chanted, "Let women speak." But wait, isn't Lydia Thorpe a woman using her voice to protest? Why, yes, to you and me at least, but not to Ms. Keen-Minshull and the rest of her gender-critical fascists. You see, Senator Lydia Thorpe is an Aboriginal woman, and as explained in the previous video, white supremacy is a fundamental tenet of the gender-critical ideology. They're ordering Senator Lydia Thorpe to let women speak because they don't see Senator Lydia Thorpe as a woman. They view her as intrinsically subhuman on the basis of her ethnicity. That's why they're relying on racism to paint Senator Lydia Thorpe as an aggressive Aboriginal woman for merely raising her voice in the presence of white women. That's why the response to her was very different to the woman from Hobart, who I'm gonna hazard a guess was most likely white, and Ms. Keen-Minshull didn't want more photos of men choking white women on her behalf leaking to the press. With women of colour, violence is almost always the response of choice, because they know they can get away with it even when that woman is a government official and is currently standing on Aboriginal land. Think about it. White police assaulted an Aboriginal senator in her people's home. If that doesn't speak to the grotesque abuse of power on display here and the racism at its core, then I don't know what will. And just so we're clear, taking the stage is not some extreme or new thing. It's a protest tactic dating back decades and even happened at the original Christopher Street Liberation Day rally, what would later become Pride. In response to calls by bigots to excommunicate trans people from the movement they were fundamental in creating, a trans woman of colour, Sylvia Rivera, took to the stage, seizing the mic before giving us this historic moment.
I will not longer put up with this shit. I have been beaten. I have had my nose broken. I have been thrown in jail. I have lost my job. I have lost my apartment for gay liberation. And you all treat me this way? What the fuck's wrong with you all? Think about that. If you all want to know about the people that are in jail, and do not forget Bambi Lamore and Dora Marks, Kenny Messner, and other gay people that are in jail, come and see the people at Starr House on 12th Street, on 640 East 12th Street, between B and C, apartment 14. The people that are trying to do something for all of us, and not men and women that belong to a white middle class, white club. And that's what you all belong to. Revolution now! Give me a G! Give me an A! Give me a Y! Give me a P! Give me an O! Give me a W! Give me an E! Give me an R! Gay power! Louder gay power!
Notice how nobody was choking her or tackling her to the ground. The worst they did was take away the mic stand, showing us that the violence we've seen at Ms. Keen-Minshull's rallies was entirely optional. Ms. Keen-Minshull and her current gang of gender-critical fascists treat cis women of colour worse than the anti-trans bigots of the 60s treated trans women of colour. That is how much Ms. Keen-Minshull and her lot have normalised violence against women as part of their hate movement, that they'll not only support said efforts, but later boast about it on social media. Thankfully, Senator Lydia Thorpe got away, and can be seen reflecting on the violence she was made victim of on Ms. Keen-Minshull's behalf.
What did you do and what were you trying to achieve, Senator Thorpe?
As a sovereign black woman, I come to let these people know that they are not welcome on this country. As a close connection to traditional owners from here, we do not tolerate this kind of filth being on Ngunnawal and Ngambri country, let alone the Nazi support that these people have, that are racist, that are homophobic, they are destroying people's lives. And this country should be ashamed that they even let people like this into this country. Now, I went to tell her that thing, that they are not welcome here. And I got pulverised by the police by simply telling that person that they are not allowed to be here. So I've been assaulted by the police today as a sovereign Gunai Jumbarang woman, and the police need to answer for the assault, but also this government needs to answer why these people are allowed into this country.
Thanks.
The Black Sovereign movement seeks to protect self-governing for First Nations people, so Aboriginal Australians and Torres Strait Islanders who never ceded to British rule, meaning that Australia effectively has two governments. Of course, as is always the case with white colonialism, the white European government of Australia often violates its treaties, dictating the lives of First Nations people, stealing their children, and even outright murdering them via police. This is done both directly and indirectly, and is what the Black Sovereign movement seeks to put an end to. They don't want more representation in the government of Australia, they want complete sovereignty, to be able to govern their people, to decide what is best for them, and to be left alone. In the words of Aboriginal Tent Embassy caretaker Murray-Gail Coe, quote, "We say that sovereignty is self-determination of ourselves, that we have the right to practice our culture, the right to practice our religion, the right to practice our law. We are sick of the government making decisions for us." End quote. This was in response to the Government of Australia's proposed Indigenous Voice to Parliament bill, a bill which was, in part, why Lydia Thorpe stepped down from the Greens to become an independent, telling the press back in February that
this country has a strong grassroots black sovereign movement full of staunch and committed warriors, and I want to represent that movement fully in this parliament. It has become clear to me that I can't do that from within the Greens. My focus now is to grow and amplify the black sovereign movement in this country, something we've never had since this place was established. There is a black sovereign movement out there that no one wants to listen to, so I'll be their voice. My strength and convictions come from a lifetime of activism, from my ancestors and from my matriarchs, who continue to say to me every day, keep infiltrating, keep your integrity, and keep the fire burning. But, more importantly, keep our fight alive. To my mob, I say this: your strength is my strength. Your fight is my fight. Your struggle is my struggle. And I'm ready for what comes next in the fight for a future where our kids can be with their families and where our people are not killed in custody, where the chains that the system, this system, wraps around our people are lifted. Thank you very much.
However, these were not her only reasons for leaving, with Senator Lydia Thorpe later coming forward and speaking truth to the abuse she suffered at the hands of members of the Government of Australia.
In the first instance, when it started to happen, I kind of just took it on the chin and thought, you know, don't make too much of a noise here and just go with the flow. It was some behaviours. I was patted on the head in the chamber by a Green senator, and I was completely demoralised. And even thinking about that still, you know, hurts me. I've never been patted on the head by anybody, and I'm nobody's little black girl. And that's how I felt. I felt belittled, and I let that one go. I let that go. I held on to that and hoped that things would get better, and they got worse. I just wanted to clear the record that, you know, it's been a very hard time for me in this place. I was sexually assaulted 4 times in my first 6 months. People wonder why I get a little bit frustrated, but I've had to endure so much in my time in this place, and that's why I say it is a toxic workplace. I chose not to speak about it again, and now I'm free to say what I like, and I want people out there to know that it's been the most traumatic 2 years in this place due to bad behaviours of politicians.
Just to clarify on those allegations of sexual harassment and assault, that wasn't from within the Greens, that was from other members within.
That's correct. That's a Liberal and Labor.
How does it feel to have to work alongside those people still?
I've gotten over that.
You've complained about the bullying allegations to Parliamentary Workplace Support Services. Have you raised the sexual assault and harassment with them as well? Or
they are aware of it, yes.
Why didn't you say from the beginning that it was also regarding the party culture and your experiences?
I was hoping it would be sorted out, and I was hoping it would stop. But it hasn't. It hasn't been sorted, and it hasn't stopped.
So are you saying that you are still being undermined and bullied by people from the Greens, even as an independent?
Yeah.
That is right. Senator Lydia Thorpe is a survivor of sexual assault, a fact that is important to highlight when considering her unapologetic support for the trans community. The narrative Lit Women speakers trying to construct is one of Ms. Keen-Minshull standing up for victims of sexual violence who they claim have been abandoned by the rest of society in favour of trans rights. The reality, meanwhile, is very different. Not only does Ms. Keen-Minshull support violence against women and those who partake in it, but her and her group openly boasted as a victim of sexual violence was assaulted by men. Men working on behalf of the very same government who created the environment that imbued them with the confidence to sexually assault her in the first place, secure in the knowledge that nothing would likely be done. Not because of trans people, but because of patriarchy, but because of white supremacy, but because of fascism, because of all the sorts of people Kellie-Jay Keen-Minshull surrounds herself with. I must add here that an inquiry has been launched into said assault by police, though I wouldn't exactly hold my breath since they did exactly what they're supposed to do. They terrorised an Indigenous leader to uphold the status quo. But returning to Senator Lydia Thorpe, she knows what it is like to be truly marginalised and have others violently take advantage of that, unlike Ms. Keen-Minshull, who is the epitome of white privilege. Yet Lydia doesn't turn to hate or bigotry. She uses her anger to help others in their time of need including the trans community. And this is a story we've seen play out time and time again, with victims of sexual violence vocally supporting the trans community, defying Ms. Keen-Minshull's assertions that she speaks for them, which is why gender-critical fascists fight so hard to silence said women. But Ms. Keen-Minshull has no idea what she's up against. People like Lydia keep fighting, refusing to be silent, and that is an effort I'd like to see paid forward in kind. Hopefully by unpacking what happened, we can work towards significant change, both in the handling of transphobia and anti-Indigenous racism, like that seen at Ms. Keen-Minshull's hate rally. Because Senator Lydia Thorpe was correct.
They're racist, they're homophobic, they are destroying people's lives.
And it's important that we don't lose sight of that. If you appreciate what we do here and want to help out, please consider becoming one of our wonderful patrons who make our work possible. On that note, we'd just like to thank the following people: Matthew Kovac, Gert Van Voorst, Hannah Banghart, Marble Wings, Sosh Daniels, Flynn, and Higgins the Seagull. And from myself, Adita and Levi, take care now.